Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon to all. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to this webinar. So this webinar is jointly organized by the Department of Computer Systems and Communication and also UTEM Cybersecurity Competence Center. So this webinar supports the call by UTEM of bringing in speakers from the industry to complement the content being delivered in lectures. So we believe that knowledge imparted by these industry practitioners will benefit greatly to our students, especially for those taking BITS 2523 Cyber Law and Security Policy course. So I think the time is already 3:05. So before we begin, I would like to give just a brief short bio of our speaker today. So today's speaker is Mr. Fung Cheng Leong. He is an advocate and solicitor of the High Court of Malaysia, who has made intellectual property, IT, cyber franchise, and privacy and data protection laws the focus of his practice. So prior to establishing his own practice, he served in one of Malaysia's most prestigious law firms as a senior associate in the intellectual property and IT department. He has served the Malaysian Bar as its co-chair of the Bar Council Intellectual Property Committee, co-chair of the Bar Council Ad Hoc Committee on Personal Data Protection, and also co-chair of the Bar Council IT and Cyber Law Committee. He has also served as the chairman of the KL Bar IT Committee and also as a committee member of the KL Bar Committee, where he developed a new mobile application registration system for members. On cyber law matters, Mr. Cheng Leong regularly advises his clients on matters relating to tech businesses and online disputes, such as online defamation, sedition, harassment, and unlawful communications. He taps into his vast network of lawyers outside Malaysia to assist clients in cross-border legal actions. With the passing of the PDPA 2010, Mr. Cheng Leong was involved in numerous training and compliance exercises for his clients to comply with the new data protection law. He has assisted in PDPA compliance for various companies and advised many large and multinational companies on numerous issues regarding the PDPA. Mr. Cheng Leong is also an author of the following books. First is Compendium of Malaysian Intellectual Property Cases, consisting of the following 2 volumes. Volume 1 is Trademarks and Volume 2 of Copyright and Illustrated Designs. And the other book is Fung's Malaysian Cyber, Electronic Evidence, and IT Law. So I think the time is already 3:06. It's a good time for us to start our session. Okay. So without further ado, I think I'll pass the session to our speaker, Mr. Fu Cheng Leong.
Okay. Thanks, Doctor.
Okay.
Some of you, it was a long bio. Some of you may know me recently that I did the case of the sugar book. As some of you may read the news last year, the top 10 sugar baby websites, sugar baby universities in Malaysia. I was involved in that case. I also recently acted for, not recently, during the pandemic, I also acted for entrepreneur Bibi Yusof on the case of defamation. I do a lot of IP and IT cases, and nowadays one of my specialty is to trace people online. So tracing people online is one of these quite the difficult job in this industry, because of the technology being implemented by all sort of people to hide their traces when they do bad things online. And one of the main problems on the internet is content. The misinformation, the fake news, the information that are doctored, offensive content, and basically information that affects you reputationally, and also information that causes you physical harm in some cases. And some of you may remember in the news some years ago, there was one news about one boy, Indian boy, who said something bad about a certain religion, which he did not say, and the news spread wildfire. And subsequently, someone decided to barge into his house with a group of people online. He gathered online and attacked his home and destroyed his home. And of course, there are numerous news that were being circulated. or probably being misconstrued. Basically, when a person say, for example, I say the sentence A, somebody misconstrues it and say X person said sentence B, and that also becomes after that people think, hey, it is all viral, it become all viral, and subsequently all sort of problems arises thereof. And one of the problem is, as I said, is offensive content. When I talk about this topic, I also want to talk about current situation. What is the current law right now? For you to understand what is covered by our law and what is not covered by our law. And what is not covered by our law, it would be, hopefully, would be the future cyber laws in Malaysia and of course everywhere else in the world. And currently, anything that is said online, any offensive material, anything that is said to annoy, abuse, threaten, or harass any person would fall under this Section 233 of the Communication and Multimedia Act. This section has been around since 1998. What has been done is previously it was used, and actually generally it's been used on three things to prosecute three things: race, religion, royalty. These are the three main things that if someone says on these three topics, prosecution will occur. You may recall that during the previous government, previous government before 2000, the last election, this section was used a lot against politicians, especially on the other side, to combat whatever they say online, to basically charge them and put them in jail and so on and so forth. Activists were all subject to this investigation. And unfortunately, if you look at this, the law is okay, but the problem is it has been abused in the past. And a lot of complaints that I get from my client is when you make a complaint that people have done, post messages to say annoy, abuse, threaten, harass any person, the authorities generally do not take action because probably because it's too much work for them, and two is probably it's very difficult to find whoever has said that. So it would come to what you do is nowadays is to sue them for defamation. If you're able to find a person, you sue them for defamation, and going to court costs a lot of money. So what the current position in the law is, if let's say you want to sue, if someone says bad things about you, your current scenario would be better off if you go to court and get a court order for defamation. You sue them for defamation, you may get damages, you may get injunction. And then we come to fake news. When the Pakatan Harapan government took over, the federal government, before that there was an act called the Anti-Fake News Act, basically which was to prosecute any person or take action against any website that publishes fake news. When the Pakatan come about, they basically abolished this act, and currently there is only one specific act that covers fake news, which is the Emergency Ordinance number 2, but it covers a very certain proposition of law, a very certain area of law only, if not mistaken. Whereas in large fake news, it is basically uncovered. One good thing about fake news is the previous act is that you basically can go to court, you get a court order and declare this website publishes fake news. So when the website is received the order, basically the website has to take down that particular news to say that this is fake news. This is useful when you're dealing with blogs, you're dealing with forums, or you're dealing with social media platforms. You just basically send them order, they would take down that particular order, particular section of the website that says that it's fake news. But currently there is none. One of the future laws that hopefully will come about is a new law to combat fake news. And probably, as I said earlier, tracing a person online is a difficult process. Currently, what I'm doing right now is we have a case where someone published, created fake accounts, and what they did is they published certain comments about my client. The clients, one of them is saying that my client's an affair with this lady, and they posted a picture of this lady, and and showing my client together. But the fact is, my client don't even know who this person is. So what we did is we went to Facebook. We found an action here in Malaysia actually to get Facebook to disclose the information to us. So after some ding dong, we managed to get the IP address from Facebook USA. And then what we need to do is once we get the IP address, we need to trace who is the owner of this IP address. Essentially, we have to go back to the internet service provider, ISP. Normally it's Maxis, Telecom, Unmobile, and so on and so forth, to disclose who is the subscriber of this account that has used the internet at that time. In my previous dealings with all this telco, Maxis, unfortunately, and also DG, if not mistaken, they both have very short retention time. So, for example, if let's say this person has published a certain comment and I got his IP address, but let's say it had happened 6 months ago, for example, I would not be able to get the subscriber details because the retention period by these companies, these telcos, are very, very short. Not mistaken, 3 to 2 months only. Then after it's gone, I won't be able to trace it. But for telecom, they keep the retention period is much longer. So what I can do is, what I've done recently also is when I got the order, I sent it to telecom, got a court order against telecom. Telecom disclosed who is this person, and I managed to get the person because it was a unified account. So from there, we can actually take action against that person. So, but problem is, if you want to do that, you've got to spend quite a bit of money, at least 10 to 20,000 ringgit to just get a court order, and also there's a long process. If let's say, for example, there's an urgency there, there is no you only think is probably you get the authorities to help you, but authorities only do it for the investigative purposes. They cannot get it for you. For example, if you find someone who is saying bad things about you, to complain to MCMC, and you want MCMC to help you disclose the information, they normally do not do that because it is not within their jurisdiction or their purview to get information for you. So best MCMC can do is they help you file a complaint to Facebook, and that's about it. So what you can do is you actually have to go and see a lawyer to get a court order to get the information. And also, if the person uses a VPN to mask his your real IP address, you will also end up dead end. You probably get up IP address and you end up nowhere. Probably IP address shows that this IP belongs to somewhere in Zimbabwe or Hong Kong or USA. The other thing is the information that you get also may not be accurate, may not be useful, because, for example, if this person has gone to a cyber cafe, which has happened in another case we have done in the past, the information was traced to a cyber cafe, or sorry, a gym, the Wi-Fi of a gym, and it shows that this person has logged in from the Wi-Fi like many months ago. So of course you want to go get a CCTV recording of it. Probably is gone. The CCTV recordings generally last for only a couple of probably weeks or probably a few months only. So being able to get information online is very difficult. So one possible law that may come about is there may be a treaty between Malaysia, US, or Europe, probably in US, because end of the day we have to look at where all these offenses are done. So now we are looking at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All these major social media platforms are normally all in the US. So if let's say there's a treaty between Malaysia and US to get a court order, or without a court order, or a very short process to get the information, we will probably require some laws required for that. And now we talk about the admissibility of computer-generated evidence. So what we are talking about, computer-generated evidence, is, for example, a CCTV. Let's say there's a murder, and the CCTV captures the murder. In the past, you would have your witness come and say, yeah, I saw the murder. But now with technology, with this, let's say for a CCTV, you will have the CCTV will come to show you what had happened. So, but there is no witness in the CCTV. Basically, there's no person running the CCTV other than the person clicking it play and turning it off and recording it. So under the law, Section 90A of the Evidence Act, what they do is when there is a computer-generated evidence, generally it is admissible. Unlike in the US, for example, they look into what we call a data integrity. They have to really ensure whatever you extract from the CCTV, all the way that is presented in court, it has not been tampered with, or even there's a likelihood of tampering. So in Malaysia, what you do is you take the CCTV, you plug in your thumb drive, you copy and paste, and then you put it to the court. Therefore, it is evidence already. So there is no talking about no data integrity and no what a chain of evidence. Very little. Chain of evidence is when, for example, let's say there's one case which I did which we won on the point of chain of evidence. This was a Computer Crimes Act case. The client was accused of hacking into, deleting the company's database. So it shows that he had logged into his office server, logged into using the account. After that, he has shown that the account has deleted the entire database of the company. So when the police came, they took over his computer. When he came back to office, he went into the office with his laptop, thinking, and one thing before that is he has actually resigned. So it was his second last day. He was supposed to leave in 2 days later. But when before his last day, he went to office, and as the usual day, and suddenly his boss come and say, hey, you come here, give me your laptop, and you don't need to come back to office anymore. So the client thinking, okay, what's going on? Okay, I'm going to leave anyway. So here's the laptop, and he will leave, and he left. A few months down the road, the police came and arrested him and said that he had deleted the server. And the laptop, according to the supervisor, he has kept it in his iron cabinet untouched until the police come to the office to ask back for the laptop to do a check on the laptop. So when the evidence was presented to court, they showed that, okay, this is the laptop, may have been used to delete the database. So when we checked the log files, we realized during the storage of the computer, from the day it was in the iron cabinet all the way to the police, at the time someone has turned on the computer and opened it up, and therefore and the supervisor could not explain why was it being opened. And the supervisor said, I don't know, I thought it was always in the cabinet. So from there, you have a break in the chain of evidence. The break in the chain of evidence to show that the computer has been tampered with. So from there, my client was also one of the reasons why my client was acquitted without his defense being called. And then we talk about data privacy and protection. Malaysia, we have what we call the PDPA for short. Essentially, what you protect, if you want to process any person data, you will need consent. But only this scenario covers commercial transactions. So basically, if you are in business, when you collect personal data, you need to get permission. So for example, but if let's say it's for personal purposes, for family reasons, I meet your event, I ask for your phone number, that is not a personal transaction. It's not a commercial transaction, but rather by a personal transaction. So the PDPA applies if the situation where there's a data leakage. So not too long ago, there was, I'm not mistaken, Malindo and Firefly were charged in court for data breach. So because there were subscriber details, so customer details being leaked out on the internet, apparently by one of the contractors. So under the Data Protection Act, if you are data, what you call a data user, if you process data and your data processor, which is your third party who helps you with processing data, the data processor has actually leaked it out, you being the data processor is liable for whatever your data processor done. So you are looking at a fine or imprisonment of 200,000 ringgit or 300,000 ringgit, imprisonment 2 to 3 years. And we're looking at directors, the manager, the CEO, COO, all may be liable under for this breaches. And the however, the thing about we don't have in Malaysia is what it could be in the future is the PDPA. If let's say, for example, I am the subscriber, I can actually file a lawsuit against the data user for causing the leak online, for example, lah. And I can get damages for it. Currently, you cannot. Currently, what you do is you file a complaint with the PDPA commission, the PDP commissioner. The PDP commissioner will investigate. And as you can see, there was a recent news about the JPN. Allegedly, JPN has its database being leaked. Many years back, there were telcos information being leaked. So I think for me, the MP of Bangsa tried to sue the telco, I'm not mistaken, the telco and MCMC and other people for the data leakage, and unfortunately the case did not proceed after that. So then in other cases, for example UK, you can actually sue all these data processors. For example, you sign up for a loyalty program in the supermarket, and you realize that the loyalty program database has been leaked online. So you as the person being affected, you can actually sue them for all this leakage and ask for damages. Now, of course, how much damages we do not know lah. But in the US, for example, the damage normally like couple of million, million US dollars and so on and so forth. So it can be quite in US is very enticing for lawyers and other people to take action against people who corporations were done wrong lah. And another thing that doesn't covered by the PDPA is doxing. One of the problem in Malaysia is doxing means, for example, I get information about you, and then I leak it all about you, and this one doesn't need to be confidential information. For example, I get a copy of your IC, I get information where you live, I get information where you work, I get information or I get pictures of you, and then from your Instagram account, and then all compiled together, I put it all online. So, and then this one encourages, it puts you in fear, because who is going to come to my house and beat me up or throw things at me? So doxing was a problem during the umbrella movement in Hong Kong, when the police officers were arresting all the youth who were involved in the protests. So when they arrested them, those who could identify their faces, this umbrella movement or the supporters tried to find information of all these police officers and publish all their information, their family members, their where the place of work, the children pictures, everything online, and for other people to see, and of course create all the negative information, negative comments and so on and so forth, and of course puts all these people in fear. What if all this umbrella movement people come to my children's school and beat them up, or there's bullying and so on and so forth. So in Malaysia, doxing unfortunately is still a grey area. Sorry, not a grey area. It's unregulated. No one has been charged for doxing so far. Probably best we can do is Section 233 of the Communication Multimedia Act. Publishing information for intent to annoy. Probably you'll get that, but again, 233 generally used for the 3 R's: race, royalty, and religion. And another problem if in the internet is what we call incitement. Is you inciting that story I said just now about the Indian boy who said that something bad about a certain religion, and then his house being the trash after that. The law does not seem to have covered this part. Where in the old days, for example in the US, in the old days where the black Africans, what with the subject is to lynching, is to find one guy will say that, hey, this group of black guys try to rape this white lady, or rape this white lady on the river, and from there they will find any random black guy, and they will start pulling them to the jungle and start hanging them. So in the cyber world, what will happen is one person will say something bad about a certain person. Normally, again, in the street is normally what they'll do is they will say, allege this person has done two things. Normally is race or religion. Normally they will allege this person has said something bad about certain religion, and this causes hoo-ha, and where people start to attack this person. So physical violence normally comes when there is incitement when it comes to religion. It is a very common, doesn't matter which religion. Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, everywhere else in the world, when certain person of a different religion talks about another religion in a bad way, there will be always repercussion in the physical sense. So unfortunately, in Malaysia, there is no such law covering that at the moment. No specific law covering that at the moment. And next is the Computer Crimes Act. Currently, what it covers is, of course, your usual hacking, authorized modification. You come in, you hack into it, and you get the password, you copy people's password, for example, and then you disclose it and to a third party for them to access certain account. That is also an offense, strangely. And you realize that this Computer Crimes Act is 1997. So we are talking about offenses that could have happened, that happens in 1997. It doesn't cover things like DDoS. It doesn't cover things like ethical hacking. Also doesn't cover like malware such as your what do you call that? I can't remember what was that. They'll think that things that lock your computer. There are a lot of online computer related type of offenses. They are not covered under the Computer Crimes Act. So the law has not been updated at the moment. Sorry, ransomware. That's the word. So the current ransomware, no specific law covering ransomware. Normally, probably you can say that authorized modification access, but again, ransomware is an offense. Normally, these people or people who done it is outside Malaysia. So how do you go and go and catch all these people who do it? So there's no such thing like an international treaty to go and Interpol go and take action against that. So trying to clamp down on ransomware is one of the most difficult things that. So whether paying money will get you unlocked, I'm not so sure. I do not know anyone who has paid, and even if you're paid, it will be a very hefty sum. And next is IP laws. Is again our law. Fortunately for IP, it is quite up to date because we follow a lot of treaties. Even software, copyright is protected. Protects software. Patents will protect software. Copyright will protect the user interface of the software. It will protect the source code of software. Whereas patent can protect the function of the software. So one of my clients, what they did is local client. So what it is they have a device to authenticate ICs. So what they do is instead of using your, you plug it into the slot, they will use the phone camera to detect with their software to detect whether the IC that was presented on the IC. On the picture of the IC, is whether authentic or not. So of course, the additional thing is what they can do is they can capture the information on the IC itself, and then which will auto complete whatever forms that needs to be done. So this one was one of the eKYCs. eKYC means electronic know your customer. To verify a certain person when you're doing transaction online, it is the real person or not. But the law in most countries do not cover information that is created by AI, artificial intelligence. So in Australia recently, they have an issue of whether the patenting of a software that's apparently created by AI is protected by way of patent or not. So the Australian court says that no, because the law that is drafted is to cater creations by individuals, living individuals only, not by any artificial intelligence or any other software. So the law has yet to be updated to say, or whether there is a policy issue, whether can we have AI to create things, computers creating and owning creations and inventions for the rest of the computer AI life, which is I will always think that whatever that's created should be owned by a living person, not by a computer. And then recently also our Malaysian courts have something called the AI sentencing. Essentially, it is actually just a software. To me, it's just a software is to, for example, you are arrested for drugs, consumption of drugs, for example, or very low amount of drugs being trafficked, or you've done some sort of offense. What they do is the AI will, for example, capture your age, your race, your medical conditions, and so on and so forth, and then they will churn out the recommended sentence for the judge to determine how many months or years of sentence or fine or you get. So this apparent so-called AI sentencing is being implemented in certain courts, so that there will be certain consistency in the sentences passed by the courts. Because each court in the past, what they can do is each court may have a different threshold of sentencing. For example, let's say drink and drive lah. So a certain court say, okay, this judge is very hates anyone who drink and drive. He will put the maximum, or probably 90% of the maximum sentence to anyone who drink and drive. Whereas let's say the other judge next door is not so hardline on drink and driving. He's probably say, okay, I understand. I give you a chance. I'm more lenient. So he will think that maybe 50% of the, 10% of the fine would be a good indication of fine. So you have your inconsistency of the sentencing. So this AI sentencing, what they can do is supposedly to streamline and have a consistent sentencing for everyone. Okay, and then moving next is blockchains. So far, Malaysian law nothing to govern blockchains, and likewise metaverse as well. Nothing to cover it. But of course, your usual copyright and patent laws would apply, or your trademark laws would apply. So far, no issues dealing with blockchains and metaverse yet in Malaysia. And for trademarks, we are when it comes to another thing is about online cyber law is the selling of counterfeits. So since MCO, all sale of counterfeits, most sale of counterfeit for the past 2 years, all moved online. From Instagram, and now is to most e-commerce platforms. So if you want to buy anything from those famous e-commerce platforms, Lazada, Shopee, and all the other places, you have to be very, very careful, because there are many counterfeits. Even though they say that it's true, it's correct, it's genuine, there also can be a likelihood it could be fake, because these platforms do not have are unable to monitor everybody who buys and sells on the platform. So it's more like self-regulating, and when you file complaint, they will only take down. So the issue is, for example, I do a lot of work for Fashion Valet and do a lot for duck, people who wear tudung here, a lot of duck scarves. So what they do is we have problems with counterfeits from Vietnam, and problem is the counterfeiters, they will manufacture it in Vietnam, and they will bring it to Malaysia. What happens is the sellers, there are thousands of them. They could be your teacher, it could be your sales exec, it could be even a lawyer. One time I had a lawyer as well. It could be anyone. It could be people from the kampong as well. So what they can do is you have few of them selling like 10, 20 of them. So it doesn't make sense for me to go and sue all of them, because let's say you got 100 of them, everybody sell 5. So it's counterproductive for me, because whatever damages I can get from them, or it's just too much work. So why don't I just go to the main source, which is the e-commerce platform, Lazada, to ask them one shot and say, you take down everything for me. So the problem is Malaysia currently, the law is still quite grey, is whether these e-commerce platforms are liable for selling counterfeits. So far, no case law to say that they are liable to sell counterfeits. Then it comes to another issue of unauthorized products. So what do you mean by unauthorized products? So for example, Coca-Cola, for example, in Malaysia, if let's say I want to sell, Coca-Cola sells for, let's say, 3 ringgit per bottle. Whereas in Thailand, it sells only, just example, Thailand only sells 2 ringgit per bottle. So instead of me going to buy from Malaysia 3 ringgit per bottle, I might as well just buy from Thailand at a very cheap price, and I just ship it over, and I make a extra, and I sell it for 280. One, I can cut the price of the local market. Two is I also make a profit 80 cents, around 80 cents. So it makes sense for you to bring what we call a parallel import from the other countries to sell in Malaysia. So what we have here in a lot of cases here, let's say for example in Lazada in e-commerce platform, is you realize that a lot of electronic goods, for example, are a lot cheaper from what you see in retail. But when you order it to your home, you realize that, for example, the power plug is not your British standard power plug. It's China made, for example. Normally it's just China made or some other countries type of platform. So these are what we call parallel imports. They are genuine products, but not intended for the market. So what you can do is what happens now is a lot of e-commerce platform, their position is, to me, it is still genuine products. We encourage competition in the market. We want consumers to have more choice. I don't care what your local distributor rights are. So long as genuine, anybody is free to sell. So the position now also unclear whether what can be done. So I think there are a couple of lawsuits being filed in court right now, and we are still waiting for the final results of this position. And then the last one, of course, the most popular topic right now is cryptocurrencies. It is legal to buy and sell cryptocurrency in Malaysia. It is not legal tender for sure. You can trade in cryptocurrency, you can buy any cryptocurrency. It's just that the problem. Sorry, there's this the thing that the law is slowly developing to cover the rights to cryptocurrency. For example, what is that a digital right? What is it? Is it a really digital asset? Is it really an asset? So what cases recently have held that cryptocurrencies are assets. It's just like any other money. It is an intangible form of asset. So a lot of cases these days, court reported cases, is the people losing their cryptocurrencies. As for example, people their e-wallet being hacked and then being transferred to another e-wallet or being transferred to another digital assets platforms to sell. And they go through a lot of other wallets to be sold. So what a lot of law cases nowadays is what we call persons unknown litigation. So persons unknown litigation is when you do not know who actually is the defendant. So what they do is they file a lawsuit in Malaysia against person unknown, so that they can get court order to freeze, for example, bank accounts. So this person unknown type action is very common in particular in case involving scams. So one of the most common scam is the invoice scams, which has happened coupled to my clients. What happened is people would masquerade in emails, very legitimate emails. They will basically take over an email of another company. They will plow through all the emails and see who are the debtors, and then they'll see which invoice is outstanding. And then what they do is they use the outstanding invoice, they change the particulars of the bank account, and then they will send the invoice again to the person in charge and say, hello, so and so, sorry, there was an error in our invoice, or we have just updated our bank account, please make payment to this account. And they realize that in one of my cases is they changed the bank account to a Malaysian bank account. So that money will get transferred to, let's say this case, in my case is a Greek company, transfer money to Malaysia. I think quarter a million ringgit there, and to account in locally. What they do is, what happens after that? The money gets dissipated to a lot of other accounts. For example, you transfer a quarter million, it gets dissipated to 10 accounts, 25, 25, 25, 25, and then another round, another 2,500, 2,500. And then after that, you realize all the money is withdrawn by way of cash. So what the account holder, normally the account holders are what we call mules, or people or unsuspecting, or people who already know. Another case, so we had one case where person we know who has actually let someone else use his account to receive money from online scams. So he was eventually charged in court and they pay a fine for it. So of course that person has to say, I know this person by name Akao. I do not know his full name. I didn't know his acquaintance, and he say he'll pay me money, and then I'll do it. Then of course people say got a bit greedy. Okay, just that account in, right? Okay. Then they pay the money, and then money gets transferred. You get a small. Sometimes you don't get paid, and get charged in court. So these are what we say what's happening on online scams right now. Another big thing is the NFT lah, the non-fungible token. Fahmi Reza, our local artist, recently issued the Monyet Istana NFT. And knowing yes, some of you may know he is always being called to the police, and always being charged in court for all sorts of satires that he's posted. This Monyet Istana this NFT has made him go to the police station and give his statement. He is not charged until today. But the purpose of selling his NFT is to raise fund for legal defense. For anyone else who is being charged for saying bad things online, they will use the funding to pay any lawyers or any other things to support them. So NFT is itself also, like cryptocurrency, is an asset. Is currently also being traded like any other assets. Also, there are cases where NFTs are being stolen. The ape, I can't remember what the full name, but the so-called ape, the NFTs are one of the most popular, and they can cost a couple of million US dollars. And so I think one of them was stolen, and lawsuits were flying around to recover the NFT. So what is NFT? Some of you may do not know what NFT is. Basically non-fungible token. Just imagine it. Like say for example your Dragon Ball, Pokemon cards in the old days lah. You have a card, and let's say a football card, for example, Paolo Maldini or all those players. In the older days, you will have, let's say, you buy a packet, the plastic open up, you will have 100 cards, and out of 100 cards, there will be all repetitive except for one golden card. That golden card, the less amount that's printed, that means the less, of course, that means that it's more valuable lah. So NFT replicates that electronically. So essentially, let's say one NFT, let's say I issue 50 NFT for this particular image. So for you to own that, you need to pay X amount dollars or cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, to own that. So you can sell it like your physical card. The NFT you'll be represented by that image, but behind it will be a code lah, certain a number or mixture of numbers and alphabets, that certain code. So you can go to the OpenSeas and all the other platforms to buy and sell all this NFT. So NFT is not only by image; it can be attached to a certain physical form like red. What is red? I can't remember her name. One of the popular artists, Malaysian artist, I didn't remember her name. In short, it's Red. So what she did is the meme for Dogecoin. She had the physical one and also the NFT for it, which she sold for, I think, I can't remember how many again, millions or quarter of million, for that. So NFT can be represented by way of the tangible and intangible things. It can be songs, it can be pictures, it can be images, it can be even, let's say, presented by hard things like a house or all sort of things. So NFT is something unique, but whether you should invest in NFT or not, I think well, you got to be in the game early lah, I would say. So anyway, the current law on digital assets, there are laws, capital market services and so forth, to govern the sale and purchase of digital tokens and digital currencies. So private sales are fine. What is lacking in this digital asset thing is, as I earlier mentioned just now, is the technicalities behind it in the event that an NFT is being stolen or a digital Bitcoin is being stolen. So how do you going to trace? One of the problems is how do you trace how this account has transferred the payments. So if you go to court, you will need expert evidence. So Malaysia, I do not know anyone who will be a so-called expert who will be able to help you trace. So normally what is done is you use foreign services to help you trace where all this Bitcoin and FTs is being transferred. And bear in mind that when you buy and sell all these things, the people's information are not, you don't put your full name. For example, you buy a Bitcoin, you don't put your full name, you don't put your IC number, you just put in a username, and username is represented by way of numerical or alphabetical numbers. So for you to trace back to that physical person, it is quite difficult. So again, one of the things that is lacking in expertise in Malaysia is the ability to trace people online. And I think that concludes my presentation. And any questions?
Okay, so thank you very much to Mr. Fung. So I guess very insightful talk. So Mr. Fung has covered a lot of important points, which I think I can see he had covered, among others, on CCA, on MCMC Act, and also PDPA 2010. So I think I'll open to the floor for any questions before I read the questions in the chat. Okay, there's one question, Mr. Fung, from Muhammad Amir. He asks, if we want to make a new or change a law, is it involve only politicians or only lawyers or both parties?
Well, it actually comes to stakeholders. I do a lot of because I'm in the Bar Council committee. So what we do, I realize is politicians are people just sitting in the parliament. What you need to do is you need to talk to people in the agencies, so the ministries. So, for example, you go to you want to make a law on you want to change the law on trademarks. So, for law on trademarks, you need to go to MyIPO. So, the government agency for IPs, basically the IP agency, said that this is happening to us. Is there anything you can help? Can you introduce a law? So, to change the law is actually a very difficult process. One is you need to buy in of the government. Normally, what you can do is you need to join an association which represents the voice of the industry. For example, for us lawyers. So we lawyers, we have Bar Council to come and help us. So we go and talk to Bar Council. This is the issue. The Bar Council members, we go and talk to the government, the Attorney General Chambers, AGC, who eventually who will draft the law for us. So when it comes to, let's say, trademarks or patents, copyright, so we will go and talk to MyIPO. MyIPO will go and talk to AGCs, and AGC will go and talk to the other ministries, and they will all come together to change the law, try to, if possible, want to change the law. So there will be a lot of law, what we call in US you will call it lobbying. So in Malaysia also we have lobbying, but you don't pay money for it. It's more like, you got to do a lot of public awareness, a lot of talking to people, knowing the right people, and making sure that politicians don't change at the time. So, for example, your politician is very aligned to you at the time. He supports this cause, for example. Let's say anti-party hoping. He supports this cause, but suddenly the government changed. They changed another politician. And the politician say, hey, I don't support this kind of thing. So you hit a brick wall. So you need to go and wait for the other change of government or next change of minister to come in and say, okay, I need to go and talk to the new cabinet to make sure that the law changes to what you think it should be.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer, Mr. Fong. So there's another question from Mr. Atallah here. Mr. Fong, from what I know, we still do not have any standalone law regarding privacy. So do you think that the current law is enough for privacy protection? And if not, could you tell us how the government can improve the current law regarding privacy protection of its citizen, and maybe some examples of the law?
Okay. Currently, the law on invasion of privacy is limited scope. It is only to modesty and morality. So, for example, some person go and record you, taking a shower. That is invasion of privacy because it shows you naked lah. But for example, if I go and get public information about you when I go and post it online, or I get information from other places, I go post it online. That is not a invasion of privacy because privacy needs to be certain information that is very private. So the law is unfortunately very limited, and what can be done is, for example, let's say, because there are many aspects of privacy. Because I'm looking at it, and for example, I go to your house. One issue I had last time is I would have a person, one of my friend, would have a person calling her all the time, different numbers, and say nothing. Or sometimes it'll be heavy breathing. So if let's say you have you say go change the number lah, but you can't just go and change the number because let's say the person has this phone for 10 years. You change the number, then the fellow find out again, they will do it again. So another issue is if I don't come inside your house, but I stay outside your house, I'm in a car. I look at you every day from outside. That is, certainly is some form of harassment there. So but it's not invasion of privacy because I'm in a public area. I'm not going to go inside your place. I'm not trespassing. I'm just outside there. So it is also not covered by our invasion of privacy. So then now it comes to what has happened recently is the introduction of the thought of harassment. So if you find that a person has done something that has been causing you alarm or fear, you can go for harassment. So you can sue them for harassment and get an injunction against them. But the problem is is invasion of privacy which is very limited scope. What the government can do is one thing is to tighten up our PDPA because currently it doesn't cover the government, the state and federal government. It doesn't cover things that are not in commercial nature. So when you look at, let's say, the Malaysia trial, for example, it's one of the biggest news these days. This company, MySJ, has all your information, MySJ information, your vaccination, your IC number, when you last checked in, and all sort of who you were close. Let's say all your contact tracing information, but they have all this information. So, but the thing is, does the PDPA apply to them? It was supposed to be a government project. It's a government project. The government says I own the data, but the app is actually owned by someone else. So the information in the app also is supposed to be owned by government, but essentially the app is on your phone. So so there is problem here is that this myself will have your information. What do you know? What are the standards and what are the protection that is being used by them to ensure your data is safe? So let's say there's a data leakage, what can we do as individuals? There's nothing we can do right now because let's say there's a data leakage. What can we do other than we are at their mercy? All we can do is ask the government, hey, go and charge these people lah. And hopefully something comes out of there. But let's say you suffered monetarily, you suffered damages. You cannot claim your damages back. So currently, I think you will need a few laws to be introduced to cover all sort of potential issues that may arise from this privacy issues.
Okay, Mr. Fong, thank you for that answer. So just to let you know, Mr. Fong, we just covered a lecture on PDPA just last week. So we did a comparison between PDPA and GDPR, and we found that there's a lot of things that were not in PDPA.
Yes, correct.
That are in GDPR. So my next question, taking from the chat over here, one question is Malaysia short on cybercrime investigators?
Yes, definitely. When I did the Computer Crimes Act case previously, the IO, which is the investigation officer, used to be a curtain salesman. And no technical knowledge. So you know how I found out, because I googled his name and then I found his name and his previous job. So you can see that he has no. So when I cross-examined him, I asked, what were you doing before you became police? So he said, yeah, I was a curtain salesman, and therefore he has no technical knowledge on doing investigation on computer forensic. So he said, yes, I do not know anything. So what they do is they pass it to the forensic department. The forensic department will just analyze what they find, and they will, of course, they will come back with, they basically, their job is say, this is scope of work, that's all I will do. They will not go beyond that, because it is not their investigation. It is the investigation officers' investigation. So they do not know what actually to find. And all they do is they just follow whatever parameters that the IO asks them to do. So in terms of that, yes, there is short of investigator. And on the private side, Malaysia also, we have some forensic experts in Malaysia, but there are not many. So I think the future is bright for forensic investigators, particularly on electronic evidence. For example, one of the most common one is employee. Took the employee, ex-employee left company, copy everything, set up new company, you get a court order, and then the forensic come to the ex-employee's company and copy everything, including what has been deleted, what is formatted, and all sorts of things. So they basically retrieval of all information that was deleted. These are the very very sought after expertise in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There's this Noreen Farzana asks, how do you handle the issue of specificity in the definition of terms used in laws to leave room for inclusion of future technology but be specific to current technology?
That is quite difficult because eventually drafters of the laws are not people from what we call the Attorney General chambers. Generally, most laws that I find has been drafted quite wide to cover a lot of areas. So, for example, let's say the Copyright Act, for example, when it was drafted, internet was not in mind. But now the law has, now the technology has evolved. The same law which was drafted in 1987 is applicable to online. So the drafter has drafted wide enough to cover electronic publications. But however, let's say we look at the Printing and Publication Act, 1948. It's pre computers, smart computers. It was drafted for the PPPA, we call it for short, is to license anybody who wants to publish hard copy documents. In the old days, you want to publish a book, you need to get a license one. So nowadays it's so easy. You just set up a blogspot and then or WordPress. You get an Instagram account. You can publish anything you want. But in old days, you want to publish anything, you need to go and get a license and you get before you can do anything or even have a newspaper. So that law has been hard coded to only cover physical publications. So that law does not apply to online publications. So you do not need to get a license to publish anything online now. So it really depends on who is the drafter of the law.
Okay, thank you very much. So there are a lot of questions, but I'll just take one more to end off. So this is a question by Amza. Is the dark web illegal or legal for people to use? What is the law for people that use the dark web?
Okay, no law against using dark web. No law in Malaysia to define what is dark web. Towards to the eyes of our laws is all dark web or white web or whatever web is still the internet. You use of course, what is prohibited is what you obtain from the dark web lah. So, for example, you go and surf child porn, for example, you will definitely be contravening some laws lah. Or you disseminate obscene materials. Whether it's a dark web or not, you will still be charged under the Penal Code. if you buy things, you sell things online, which is or buy things from the dark web, which is illegal. Again, you will be charged under certain laws, which does not cover. For example, you buy handguns, for example, from dark web and sent to Malaysia, you will be charged for firearm possession, which is a different law, lah. So there's no distinction under our law. What is the dark web?
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Fung. But the problem is, I think most of the transaction in the dark web is being done using Bitcoin. So again,
Yeah.
it begs to how do you catch these, or how do you actually trace the transactions, right?
No, it's very, very difficult to trace transaction, especially on the dark web, lah.
Yeah.
But there's one story I want to share, which is I've told many times. Is this popular website used to be for pedophiles, lah. So where it's for child pornography. So there was this website who hosts child pornography. So users who upload child pornography and to abuse people who done it. So what they done is the investigator, because everything is on dark web, so how do you trace it? So this particular investigator, they zoom into one particular user, and this particular user was supposed to be the admin of this platform. So what this person, whenever he greets his people on that particular pedophile website, he will use the word Hayas, Hyas. And this word Hayas, instead of saying hello, Haya, hello, or whatever, he just uses Hayas. So the investigator zoom in to the word Hayas. So they all went all sort of places. They went on the Google and so on and so forth to search the word Hayas. Eventually, they found a forum where a person was offering to sell his car, and his open lines was Hayas. So from there, what they did is they traced the seller of the car, did the surveillance on him, and eventually found out that person who said Hayas on that part selling this car is the person who was operating the dark web child pornography platform. And they eventually went to his house, arrested him, and so on and so forth. But that's not end of the story. So after they did that, what the police did is they took over the platform and they ran it themselves as if they were the admin. And they captured all the IP addresses, they captured all the transaction on the log, and eventually they did a sweep on all the pedophiles that was active on the platform. So in a way that they basically cracked down the entire pedophile ring for that particular ring based on just the word Hayas. So sometimes the tracing of people online doesn't really require really technical knowledge. There's a lot of social engineering to find a certain person. So I think investigation has to go beyond. Sometimes you have to go beyond technicality.
Yes, so I think such social engineering as a method or art is a very important thing nowadays to catch these criminals, because you guess the people are the weakest link, and their habits don't change, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
What they do is they will use the same thing, they use the same name, right?
Correct. So for me, I do a lot of tracing people who sell counterfeits, and I tell you when I trace people to sell counterfeit, I download everything about that person from the family, from the father, mother, the husband, wife, everybody. I will get information. So you'll be surprised how much information the person reveals about themselves online. The digital fingerprint is tremendous.
Yep. Okay, Mr. Wong, thank you very much for that answer. So the clock is already 4:07. So I think we'll end the Q&A session for now. So thank you very much to all the participants for those interesting questions and also equally excellent answers by Mr. Fung. So with that, I think we have reached to the end of our webinar today. We would like to extend our thanks to our speaker today, Mr. Fung, as well as to all participants. So we do hope that today's session has been beneficial to all of you, and hopefully we can have similar talks on cyber law and related topics in the future. So again, thank you very much, Mr. Fung, and all of you have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
you, Doktor.
Okay.